Segment 3, Gold and Black Live, and pleased to have Tom Dienhart back on the show after being on segment 1. But really pleased to have Jay Layman, the guy that I admired as a player. Certainly, I don't know if there's been any guy I've watched in the Big Ten football over years that played harder than you and made the more out of what you were about. Obviously, at Illinois from 2003 to 07, but you redshirted right in 3, and then of course two-time All Big Ten, first team All-American in 2007. We got a lot to ask you, and obviously, tomorrow, Purdue, Illinois, and Champaign, which is where you live now, but obviously work with the Big Ten Network.
Right.
What do you see? How do you see this one? I mean, it's so hard to look at these games and know what we're going to see from week 1 to week 2, and that may be the storyline for Saturday's game at Champaign.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'll just speak from kind of the Champaign perspective. You guys get a lot of West Lafayette perspective. I think in Champaign, this is a true measuring stick game for Lovie Smith. We look at the next 9 days. We're taking on, or Illinois is taking on, rather, Purdue and Minnesota at home against coaches that were hired after Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
And I think we've all compared, and I would make the argument that for a while there, Illinois and Purdue, I mean, they've had their ups and downs. On any given year, though, let's just say over in the 2000s, they've been largely equal programs. I think Purdue's been a little bit more success, but I think when you talk about what echelon of the Big Ten they're on, I think they're around there. I think Purdue's had a little bit more success. And so Illinois, certainly, Illinois-Purdue, I think basketball's always had a little bit more juice than Illinois-Purdue football. But I will say that it's a measuring stick game. Brom coached Illinois under Ron Zook, okay? A lot of people wanted to have – at IlliniInquirer.com, we got a guy named Jeremy Warner. Coach Brom, when he was at Western Kentucky, he was Jeremy Warner's – one of his favorites for the Illinois job was Coach Brom. Now, we didn't go that direction. And so it is a big – measuring stick game, especially after what we saw against Wisconsin last week. Really disappointing for a senior-laden team that Illinois is. And kind of the thing is we know that Brom 2 years ago and 3 years ago really exposed some of Illinois' defensive woes. Last year, the weather really did Illinois a favor. In West Lafayette, it was just a mud fest. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I remember that game, and whoever could run the ball, and they had injury issues as well. And so I think this is a big measuring stick game when you look at Lovie Smith compared to Jeff Brom, who Jeff Brom so far has had more success than Lovie Smith.
Yeah. Hey, Jay, good to see you again, buddy. Champaign Centennial's own number 47 in your Illini program. I must say, if you guys, if viewers don't recall, but Jay used to have fabulous hair in college.
You too, man.
It's still, I was always still jealous of Jay's hair, but I digress.
I had the mullet going on. I just got the fresh fade, so I finally got into the 2020s and got.
You're a young 35. That's all I keep saying.
Young 35. That's right.
Yeah. Jay's a great guy. And Jay, you talked about the opener for Illinois at Madison, not successful. Hit on the offense a little bit. They didn't score an offensive touchdown. Brandon Peters struggled passing the football. They were bringing in the other quarterback, Isaiah Williams, a little bit. They could never get on track offensively, even though they have, I think, 4 starters back on that O-line. Just talk about what you're looking for from Illinois' offense on Saturday.
Well, a lot more production than we saw. I mean, it didn't start off well. I think the second play of the game, one of their most experienced players, Mike Epstein, fumbles, kind of sets the whole tone. As Illinois fans, the joke is, when are we going to get to the how are they going to respond moment in the season? They got to that moment in the second play of the season, and that's never a good omen for Illinois. And I think the difference is they really expected this team, and Lovie Smith is on record saying this is his best team. A lot of these guys played as freshmen and sophomores in the 17 and 18 seasons. Kind of had a breakout spurt where they won 4 Big Ten games in a row last year, which was kind of the catalyst of that was the upset of Wisconsin. And so the fact they were 23-point dogs, and they went down to 20-point dogs against Wisconsin was kind of a line people were kind of shocked at. With all that Wisconsin lost, Graham Mertz kind of unknown. Well, not shocked anymore, because I think the offense was not only not innovative, okay, we've got Brandon Peters in his second year starting, targeted Josh Bebe, who's a great target, 10 times. And targeted everybody else 1 or 2 times for a total of I think it was 7 of 18 or something pretty bad. And there was really no rushing attack other than a couple quarterback runs. You take the couple quarterback runs out, there was no rushing attack at all. And so in talking to and hearing Rod Smith say, Rod Smith, by the way, offensive coordinator for Illinois, says we've got to be more innovative on the offensive side of the ball. They weren't able to get into their quick tempo. They're a quick strike offense. They're, when they do score, it's usually under 2.5 minutes. And they get a first down, they're going to get the tempo going. And quite frankly, I was so disappointed that their offensive line did not control the point of attack better. They got 4 offensive line men returning. It was just a poor performance all around. There's not many positives I can say about the offensive side of the football. It was just that bad. And it's not like Wisconsin didn't lose some key defenders with Zach Bond and Chris Orr. So I can't make any excuses for it, Tom. It was a pathetic performance offensively.
Yeah, you get games in empty stadiums, and I watched, because it was Friday night, watched a good portion of the Illinois-Wisconsin game. They just had no energy. That's what, too. There's just nothing going on.
Listen, if you've got fullbacks, which Brandon Stockey is a fullback, catching wheel routes over your best cornerback, which our best cornerback at Illinois is Nate Hobbs. He's got the length, he's got the speed, he's played a long time. He'll probably be matched up on Bell if Rondell plays, maybe Rondell. When you got fullbacks catching those balls over, you got tight ends just running scot-free over the middle. It's not a matter of those guys are faster than you. It's either I'm not giving effort or I don't have a clue on what I'm doing. Yeah. Neither is really good. So I don't know, pick your poison. Is it effort or I have no clue? Because one of the two things was happening, right? And so they got out-schemed. They got outplayed. They got out-efforted. To be honest, I think the coaches would say the same thing. And I just think Illinois fans are just so they're just kind of the here we go again has been. And so it's like, what's going to happen against Purdue? Purdue's had more success of late than Illinois, but it's still a program in Illinois' eyes that hey, if we actually want to go to a bowl game, we better beat Purdue. Just like Purdue looks at Illinois and says, if we want to go to a bowl game, we better beat Illinois because we're always going to have to play Wisconsin or one good East Division team,
Well, Jay, still casting our eyes towards Saturday, I'd love to know your, 3 or 4 point plan on what Illinois needs to do to defeat the Boilermakers and level their record at 1-1.
Hey, that's a great question, Tom. Number one is turnovers. You look at when Illinois won last year, they had 28 turnovers over 12 games last year. Led the Big Ten in that category. And a shocking statistic, which they might actually beat this year, is 14% of all Illinois' points last year came from the defense.
Wow.
And 100% of their points have come from the defense this year. So they're on pace to beat them. So number one, they've got to get Aiden O'Connell, or if it's Plummer, to throw a couple of balls to him. When I saw O'Connell play, better than I expected, but he throws into traffic. No doubt. I mean, he got away with some, right? And one of the things I said going into the Iowa game, people don't realize Iowa over the last 3 years has led the nation in interceptions. Yeah. So I thought Iowa was going to pick off, a couple times, and with Brom not being able, with Jeff not being able to call the plays, I thought, hey, there's going to be more turnovers. I thought Aiden O'Connell actually played pretty good. Bell played lights out. That's without going his head. So number one, create turnovers. Number two, if we look at what happened 2 years ago with Rondell when they came to Champaign, they basically got killed by crossing routes in man coverage. I mean, Braun basically just ran his receivers like this and got the ball in the space to Rondell, and there were no horses on Illinois to keep up on that. And so we can't run zone all the time. That got obliterated against what I would call a less evolved passing attack in Wisconsin. As good as Graham Mertz is, Wisconsin has a less evolved passing attack than Brom does in Purdue. Brom is more complex. And so that's got to be shored up. So we've got to figure out how do we cover people in man coverage, because I'm not sure the front four, which is the weakest part of Illinois' defense, although it played probably the best against Wisconsin, but the weakest as far as experience goes, how are we going to get pressure on Aiden O'Connell? Okay. And then the third is we've got to score. I don't think you're ever the days of, I think there was a famous Purdue game, Purdue, Illinois, probably 1993 or 1994. Allstott was killing Illinois, and then Illinois throws a pass to Ken Dilger, and Ken Dilger's the tight end, played for the Colts for years, and Dilger gets tackled on the 1, right? And I think the game was like, I don't remember, but maybe it was 17-10 or 13-10 or something like that. Some mid-90s neck brace score, right? You're not going to win a football game if you're not going to score 21 points. Like in this era of football, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. You can't go into a Purdue game and say like, hey, we're going to score 17 points and we're going to win the game. Like you got to score. Like this is college football. Like you've got to average 25, 30 points to have a shot, in my opinion. And people kind of forget that sometimes. Like we have to score.
I love that one. All right, I'm gonna freak you out because I do. 22-16 was the final.
Okay.
And Dilger gets caught on the 1 yard line by John Jackson, tackles him. And
wow.
Purdue was a huge win for Purdue and Coletto because that they thought they were heading to a bowl and then they went south after that. 1994 Illinois was ranked. And I think that must be a childhood memory for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah. It was like
in the stadium.
The funny thing was I grew up, so my first consciousness, I'm obviously born in 85. I kind of got conscious of football. And, when I was 7, so 2 or 3 years before, and Illinois had unbelievable defenses, right? Yeah. I mean, they had like Simeon Rice, Dana Howard, and Kevin Hardy, Butkus Award winners, and Lou Tepper, who's the head coach, was all about defense. And we just prayed that they would score a touchdown or two, right? Because they had like the number 1 ranked defense for years. And then they made a shift to offensive coaches, but neither here nor there. But again, I still remember Ken Dilger, who was a big player, big guy, and a good football player. I think he played for over a decade with Tampa and the Colts. Yeah. And he's in Indy now. I've talked to Ken, and he's probably still bummed about that. And I'm bummed about that. But I say that because football's so different now, right? Like it's not going to be 22-16. It's probably, if you're going to win this game, it's probably going to be 35-30 on this game. Just the way the defenses are. I was impressed, more impressed. I have my questions about Bob Diaco. I think we all did. The last run at Nebraska wasn't great. He obviously did some great things at Notre Dame. He got the UConn job, which is a tough place to win. But I thought they played well. Yeah. So I've got no knocks on him after what I saw him there. So for all the stuff that happened to Purdue, for them to get a win in week 1 against a solid Iowa program, hey, props to them.
Yeah. No
hey, JJ, while we got you here as well, I'd love for you to share some of your memories of past cannon battles that you participated in for Illinois against Purdue. In any of those games from, I guess, 04 to
I've tried to forget them. Right. Because here's the deal.
What was your record against Purdue? You remember?
0-4. But here's the deal. In 2007, we didn't get to play Purdue.
Yeah, right.
So if you remember the way the old schedule worked, when there was 11 teams, you had 8 conference games and you had 2 teams off. Okay. We had Purdue and Michigan State off that year, and Michigan State was pretty average. That was D'Antonio's first year, and Purdue, I think, was pretty average. Yeah. But so I don't feel bad when people are like, oh, we got to play Michigan, Ohio State. We got to play Wisconsin. We got to play Penn State. I played them all. Okay. Like I don't really care. I played them all in the same season. Like I don't really care. But that being said, my memories are this. So 03, I was a red shirt. They had a great defense. Nico Kudavides, Landon,
Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson. And I ended up playing with Landon at the Carolina Panthers. And what I love about Landon is the guy doesn't look like he's a savage on the football field. He just kind of looks like a normal little guy, and he goes out there and just pops people. So him and I got to play with Ray Edwards at Minnesota, which Ray was a phenomenal guy. And I remember Bernard Pollard being the biggest safety in the world ever. And so these are really, really good players. I mean, he was out of Fort Wayne, and my roommate was out of Fort Wayne, Homestead, Kevin Mitchell, Homestead, Fort Wayne. He played at Illinois with me, and he was friends with Bernard. So I remember in 2004, I believe that was Orton's senior year. I got in for the first time as a redshirt freshman. I was in on like a nickel package or something for some reason. I'm not sure why. I think I was so starstruck that they just threw the ball right over me to Charles Davis. I think, was it Charles Davis? No.
Yeah, Charles Davis. Yep.
Big old tight end. One thing that's always funny about Purdue is like for being a basketball aggressive, you know, big old tight end. Yeah. And but I also remember that they ran no matter what. The special teams were to run middle wedge, no matter what. The least innovative special teams like kickoff ever. But it was solid. And Charles Davis and like some other tackle was in the middle wedge. And I was what you call the R5, and I was the wedge buster. This might have contributed to head injuries later on. So anyway, I'm running down the field, and my coach tells me, Greg McMahon, great coach, special teams coach for Illinois for years, and then he went down to the Saints, and now he's with LSU as a special teams coach. But he would say, Jay, all I want you to do is take two. You take two guys on that wedge, you're good. And that's what he used to tell us. So, of course, I'm a good soldier. I launched myself into the wedge. And I do remember the field just looking different afterwards. I didn't realize what that meant. I mean, in hindsight, I know that was probably a concussion. But the meeting after, like, look at Layman throw himself into that middle wedge. Okay, neither here nor there. Not blaming coaches or anyone for that. That's just the way it was. Okay, and not certainly not blaming Greg or any coach. So let me just do my disclaimer there. That's how we did it, right? I mean, that's how we did it. We split the wedge. And so anyway. I remember Charles Davis manhandling me on the line of scrimmage one time. I tried to like jam him. He like threw me out the club. And then I do remember Kyle Orton throwing me over. That was like 2004. 2006, we were actually up on Purdue at Memorial Stadium. We were up on everybody that year, but we lost every game. Still only had 2 wins. And I think it was Corey Sheets. He's a quick little rascal. Playing him, Curtis Painter. We had a key play in that in which we ran a zero blitz on a 4th down to stop Curtis Painter. And the key on a zero blitz is everybody's got a man, but if the blitz doesn't tackle the quarterback, there's no man accounting for the quarterback. They ran an option. Painter kept it, ran for 40 yards for a touchdown. That broke the game open. So I could talk more and more about it for you guys, but, I remember Dorian Bryant, obviously. Great. Was it Dorian Bryant or Taylor Stubbs? Yeah. Dorian Bryant, I think, great player. I got to play with John Stanford in a league called the UFL. So Johnny is just a great human being. Robbie Powell, who played offensive line. Cliff Averill, we've crossed paths. So, I mean, there's been a lot of Purdue guys that, I've crossed paths with. I think the biggest memory is that you stay in basically an oversized garage when you play at Purdue. So
Yeah, and that is true. And that's still kind of the way it is. Even in COVID world, I felt bad for Iowa last week. I don't know how they had any hope of social distancing in Purdue's locker room.
I don't think so.
Your memories are great. This is you were digging deep. You're right.
See, my head's not actually that bad.
I could say that. I remember the Curtis Painter play because Painter couldn't run away from anybody, and he didn't have to on that play.
Well, it just talks about our team speed at Illinois. Then I mean, that's how bad the team speed wasn't for lack of effort. But those are the plays that are kind of burned in my memory. It's like you remember the bad ones.
Yeah.
It's the problem. And, football, sorry to cut you off there, but football is such a photographic sport.
Yeah.
And you guys know that as announcers and covering games, there's certain pictures of plays when you played or when you're watching that literally are just like pictures in your mind. You're like, no, Yeah. So it's more no's for Illinois fans than yes. Yeah, so.
All right. Well, in our last question, we care to give an idea of what we really will see on Saturday afternoon. I mean, I think Purdue's a 4.5 5-point favorite or whatever. But when it push comes to shove, what do you expect?
Yeah, I would actually add about 10 points to that for Purdue. From what I saw, I'm going off of one game film. I was not impressed with Illinois at all. Also, they did lose their best defensive player last week early in the game, Jake Hansen. There is no status update on if he's able to play this week. Hopefully he does.
Yeah.
But if he's not in the game, I think that's a big loss to the defense, number one. He calls all the defenses. He's kind of a team leader. Lovie Smith has even said, how coaches will go through the game plan with their quarterback. He's like, I go through it with Jake Hansen. The defensive game plan. That's how big Jake Hansen is to it. So I think that is a huge hit to Illinois. I really don't see unless something changes drastically, how Illinois is going to score enough points to stay up with Purdue. They might switch a couple scores. Let's say it's 21-14 at half. But I really believe, especially if Rondell plays, which from what I know, I don't know yet. I mean, there's been back and forth. It's been pretty cryptic stuff from the stuff I've looked at. It could be very difficult to keep up with them in the big playability, because that's what Brom does. He gets chunk plays, and we have had big problems getting chunk plays. And so that concerns me. Of course, I'm 100% neutral. Say we, I mean, us at the Big Ten Network. But I say that just to give you a perspective from an Illinois alum and somebody who watches the Big Ten very closely. I think they should be a 2-touchdown favorite.
All right, that's great stuff, Jay, and very good analysis. And you hide it well and you don't hide it well, so that works perfectly. All right, well, Jay, we'll let you get back to the rest of your afternoon, and we'll look forward to are you going to be in the studio, I assume, on? Yeah,
I'll be on studio Friday night. I was hoping I was going to get to announce the Illinois-Iowa game, but they got somebody else for me. I think it might be James Laurinaitis. Maybe. I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, but James doing the Purdue game, yeah.
So James will do a great job, and Purdue's had their fair share of success against Ohio State. So you guys can hit him up on Twitter about that. Yeah, I'll be in studio on Friday talking about this game and every other game that's going to be on.
All right, sounds great. Well, Tom, I want to thank you as well. And want to thank our sponsors, Triple X. I don't know if Jay's ever in his day.
Oh yeah, when I stop in, I love Triple X. Man, give me a stack or whatever it is when they get like the hash browns and everything on it. Well, I don't know what they call that, but I do go to Triple X. It's a great spot.
All right, Hilton Garden Inn, Triple X, as we said, State Farm agent Trent Johnson. I want to thank Gordon and Scott and the gang at WLFI also for making this happen. Have a good weekend. It's always good when there's football, Jay, and we're going to all hope that that continues for at least the next 8 weeks.
Go Illini and boiler up.
All right, sounds great, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on Gold and Black Live, and we'll look forward to previewing Purdue, Wisconsin, we hope, and being able to do that. So have a great week, everybody, and thanks so much.